The red light blinked. The band swung. America leaned closer. For 30 years, Johnny Carson ruled The Tonight Show, and by extension, late-night television itself. He was the smiling gatekeeper behind the desk, the king who could launch your career with a single laugh, or end it with a single glare. But behind that polite Midwestern charm, Carson carried an iron code: loyalty, control, respect. Cross those lines, and the door to The Tonight Show and to millions of American living rooms might close forever. There was no official blacklist, no memo from NBC, just a phone that stopped ringing, a booking that never came again. And in a rare conversation near the end of his life, Carson is said to have quietly acknowledged a few people he would never invite back. These are the 5 stories that survived the silence. 5 names burned into late-night legend, some proven, some whispered, but all very, very real to those who were never allowed back through the curtain. Number 5. Howie Mandel. The night a prop sank his career.
First guest tonight is one of the stars of NBC's hit series, St. Elsewhere. Very fine show I've seen on Wednesday nights. He's also a very inventive, funny young man, and he's going to be performing in concert this Friday night at the Beverly Theater here in Los Angeles. Would you welcome Howie Mandel?
He was young, weird, and wildly funny. By the mid-'80s, Howie Mandel was a Tonight Show favorite. 21 appearances, each more manic and lovable than the last. But one night, a prop changed everything. Mandel brought out a massive saber-toothed tiger bit, part visual gag, part chaos. The prop malfunctioned. The audience sat in awkward silence. Johnny's legendary timing was thrown completely off. Carson smiled politely, but the chill in his eyes said it all. After that night, Mandel was never asked back. In interviews years later, Mandel admitted he never understood exactly why. But showbiz insiders and Tonight staffers have long whispered the same thing. Carson hated being surprised. If you derailed his rhythm, you didn't get another shot. Howie walked out of Studio 3B that night, carrying his broken prop, and the sinking feeling that he'd just killed his golden ticket. Sometimes in Carson's world, one awkward minute could erase a decade of goodwill. Number 4. Dana Carvey, the imitation that stung.
Here's a very talented young comedic actor who's in the cast of NBC's Saturday Night Live, and he's becoming very popular on that show. Would you welcome Dana Carvey?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Few comics could mimic Carson as brilliantly as Dana Carvey. His Johnny was perfect. The head tilt, the clipped phrasing, the smug little chuckle. Carson even chuckled along, at first. But in 1991, Saturday Night Live aired a sketch called Carsenio, a parody that merged Carson's stuffy class with Arsenio Hall's new energy. The bit suggested that Johnny, then nearing retirement, was out of touch with the next generation. The sketch went viral in pre-viral days, and according to Carvey himself, Johnny was furious. Carvey later told Howard Stern and Bill Simmons that after that sketch, he was pretty much banned. He never got another Tonight invite before Carson left the show. Was it official? No memo, no announcement, but the silence spoke louder. Carvey says he even warned SNL about doing it, fearing Johnny would take it personally. He was right. Carson prided himself on being untouchable. To see himself lampooned by a comic he once praised, that for Johnny was betrayal wrapped in laughter. And in Carson's world, laughter wasn't supposed to come at him. It was supposed to come through him. Number 3. Wayne Newton, The Feud in the Desert. By the 1970s, Wayne Newton, Mr. Las Vegas, was a Tonight Show regular and a genuine friend of Johnny's. He'd serenade America, then sip a drink beside the host. But everything changed over real estate and pride. In the early 80s, both Newton and Carson were tied to the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas. When Newton outbid Carson to take ownership, Johnny began cracking jokes on air about Newton's looks, his rumored mob ties, even his masculinity. Newton, never one to back down, confronted Carson in person. Accounts vary. Some say he shouted, others that he threatened him outright, but everyone agrees the confrontation was explosive. After that, Newton was gone from The Tonight Show for good. In interviews years later, Newton said he never forgave me for beating him on that deal. Carson, for his part, never mentioned him again. The jokes stopped, but so did the friendship. Newton kept Vegas, Carson kept late night, and between them stretched a silence wider than the Nevada desert. Number 2, Rich Little, the impression that hurt too much.
Would you welcome, please, our good friend Rich Little.
For years, Rich Little was Carson's darling. The man of 1,000 voices could become anyone: Reagan, Nixon, Jimmy Stewart, even Johnny himself. His Carson impression was so spot on it became a late-night staple. But somewhere between flattery and mockery, the line blurred. In 1982, Little appeared on the show for the last time. No explanation. Just gone. When asked decades later, he said flatly, "I was banned." Carson's lawyer and confidant, Henry Bushkin, later confirmed it in his memoir. Johnny could not stand being imitated, Bushkin wrote. Rich's impression got under his skin. It wasn't that Johnny hated comedy. He just hated losing control of his image. For Carson, precision was everything. Every gesture, every pause, every chuckle carefully calibrated. To watch Rich Little do Johnny Carson better than Johnny himself? That wasn't funny. That was unbearable. Little would go on to imitate every other host in the business, but the king of late night had shut his gates permanently. Number 1, Joan Rivers, the ultimate betrayal. No story captures Carson's loyalty or his fury like this one. In the early 1960s, Joan Rivers was a struggling comic. Carson gave her a shot on The Tonight Show in 1965. After her set, he looked into the camera and said, "You're going to be a big star." And she was. Rivers became a fixture on The Tonight Show, and eventually Carson's permanent guest host, the only woman to hold that spot. Their friendship was both professional and deeply personal. Then came 1986. Fox offered Joan her own late-night talk show, The Late Show, starring Joan Rivers. She called Johnny to tell him the news, her mentor, her champion. But the story goes, he didn't congratulate her. He hung up. In Carson's eyes, she hadn't just taken another gig, she'd challenged him. He felt blindsided, betrayed. Within days, NBC executives confirmed what everyone suspected. Joan Rivers was banned from The Tonight Show for life. The exile lasted nearly 30 years. Carson never spoke to her again. When he retired in 1992, Rivers sent him a congratulatory note. He never replied. When he died in 2005, she said quietly, "I wish we could have talked." It wasn't until Jimmy Fallon took over in 2014, 9 years after Johnny's death, that Joan finally walked back through those studio doors. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Carson, wherever he was, remained silent. Were there others? Legend claims more. Zsa Gabor, supposedly banned after asking if Johnny wanted to pet her pussycat. Shelley Winters, after throwing whiskey on him. Sinead O'Connor, after storming off. But most of those tales fall into urban myth territory. Juicy, yes, but thinly sourced. The 5 names here, Rivers, Little, Newton, Carvey, and Mandel, are the ones grounded in real accounts, memoirs, interviews, contemporaneous reports, and consistent recollection. Carson never announced these bans. He didn't need to. His silence was enough. If your name vanished from The Tonight Show lineup, Every agent in Hollywood understood what that meant. You were done, at least on Carson's couch. The man behind the curtain. To understand these bands, you have to understand Johnny himself. He was a man of contradictions, warm to strangers, but cold to friends who crossed him, generous to young comics, yet capable of shutting them out forever. Carson hated confrontation. He didn't scream or rant. He simply erased people. His lawyer once said, Johnny's revenge was absence. And it's true. His bands were quiet acts of control in a world that constantly threatened to spin beyond his control. Howie Mandel embarrassed him on his own stage. Dana Carvey mocked him on national TV. Wayne Newton confronted him face to face. Rich Little wore his skin like a mask, and Joan Rivers, his beloved protege, competed with him. Each, in their own way, punctured the illusion of Johnny's untouchable kingdom, and each paid the same price. The Curtain Call. On May 22, 1992, Johnny Carson said goodnight for the final time. He didn't mention the feuds, he didn't mention the bands, he simply thanked the audience and said, I bid you a very heartfelt good night. America wept. Behind the scenes, Carson returned to quiet living, sailing, reading, and sometimes calling comedians privately to compliment their work. But even then, the names of the band were never spoken again. When he died in 2005, he left behind no written list, no confession, just the legends, the whispers, and a handful of people who still felt the weight of that silence. Joan Rivers once said, the worst pain isn't being hated, it's being forgotten. Maybe that's the truest punishment Carson ever gave. Every empire has its rules. Carson's kingdom wasn't built on politics or armies. It was built on charm, laughter, and the power to choose who got to share the couch. The laughter we remember was real. So was the loneliness beneath it. He wasn't perfect. He was human, a perfectionist who guarded his world with velvet gloves and invisible locks. The five who crossed him, Rivers, Little, Newton, Carvey, and Mandel, each saw that human side up close, the pride, the hurt, the silence. And in that silence, you can still hear it, the faint echo of Johnny's famous sign-off, I'll be right back. Except for some, he never was. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment down below, as it helps support this channel. Also, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our newest videos. Thanks for watching.